Marcus Chen guided his cargo ship through the asteroid field with practiced ease. The vessel was old but reliable, much like Marcus himself. He had been flying cargo routes through the outer rim for 15 years, and he knew every shortcut, every safe harbor, and every trick to make a decent living in the vast emptiness of space. The job posting had appeared on his console 3 days ago. Transport sealed containers from Theta 7 mining colony to the core worlds. The payment was generous, far more than typical cargo runs. The client was a company called Meridian Solutions, and they asked only one thing. No questions, no inspections, no deviations from the flight plan. Marcus needed the money. His ship required new engine parts, and his savings were nearly gone. He accepted the contract without hesitation. Theta 7 appeared on his view screen as a small gray planet surrounded by empty space. The mining colony had been abandoned 3 months earlier, when the valuable minerals ran out. Marcus had heard stories about the evacuation. Thousands of workers from dozens of species had packed up and left within weeks, moving on to more profitable locations. The landing pad was covered in dust. Marcus lowered his ship carefully, checking his instruments twice. Everything seemed normal, but the silence bothered him. Abandoned places always felt wrong, like houses where families once laughed, but now stood empty and cold. He stepped out of his ship wearing his protective suit. The colony buildings stood like silent witnesses around him. Doors hung open. Equipment lay scattered where workers had dropped it. A child's toy, some kind of alien ball, rolled past in the wind. Marcus found the cargo containers exactly where the contract specified. 6 large metal boxes, each one sealed with electronic locks. 5 were standard shipping containers, the kind he hauled every week. But the 6th container was different. It had temperature controls and life support indicators blinking green on its side panel. He frowned. The contract listed all cargo as mining equipment and geological samples. Why would rocks need life support? Marcus checked his communication device. He could contact Meridian Solutions and ask questions. But the contract was clear: no questions. If he caused problems, they might cancel the job and keep the deposit he had already spent on fuel. He loaded all 6 containers into his cargo hold using the ship's mechanical arms. The work took 2 hours. The sun was setting on Theta 7 when he finished, casting long shadows across the abandoned colony. Marcus returned to his cockpit and began the launch sequence. His fingers moved across the controls, preparing for departure. In 30 seconds, he would leave Theta 7 behind forever. Then he heard it. A sound from the cargo hold. Soft, like something moving. Marcus froze. His hand hovered over the launch button. Cargo holds were supposed to be silent. Containers were supposed to be sealed and secure. He told himself it was nothing. Perhaps something had shifted during loading. Perhaps the wind had knocked something loose outside, and the sound traveled through the hull. But Marcus had been a pilot for 15 years. He knew the sounds of his ship better than he knew his own heartbeat. This sound was different. This sound was alive. His contract flashed on the screen in front of him. No inspections. No deviations. No questions. Marcus stood up. He walked to the cargo hold door. His heart pounded in his chest. Everything in his training told him to follow the contract, to ignore the sound, to launch and complete the delivery. But something stronger than training pulled him forward, something human. He opened the cargo hold door. The 6 containers sat in neat rows, secured by magnetic clamps. 5 containers were silent and still. The 6th container, the one with life support, was humming softly. Marcus approached it slowly. The temperature display showed 22 degrees Celsius. The oxygen indicator showed active circulation. The power consumption was far too high for simple climate control. He placed his hand on the container's surface. It was warm. Something inside was definitely alive. Marcus checked the electronic lock. It required a security code. He could override it using his emergency captain's authority, but that would leave a record in the ship's log. Meridian Solutions would know he had opened their container. The sound came again, softer this time. Almost like crying, Marcus entered his override code. The lock released with a hiss of pressurized air. He pulled the container door open slowly, ready for anything. Inside, curled in the corner on a thin blanket, was a child. She was small and thin, with scaled skin that shimmered green and gold in the cargo hold lights. Her species was Zenthari, a reptilian people known for their mining expertise. She wore torn clothing, and her eyes were red from crying. When she saw Marcus, she pressed herself harder into the corner, terrified. "Hey," Marcus said softly, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." The girl stared at him with wide, frightened eyes. She was shaking. Marcus knelt down slowly, making himself smaller and less threatening. "Do you speak Galactic Common?" The girl nodded slightly. "What's your name?" "Lysa," she whispered. Her voice was hoarse, as if she had been crying for a long time. "Lysa, that's a beautiful name. I'm Marcus. Can you tell me why you're in this container?" Tears rolled down Lysa's scaled cheeks. "My family died. The colony left without me. A man said he would find me a new home. He put me here." Marcus felt ice in his stomach. This was not mining equipment. This was not a simple cargo run. This was something terrible. He looked at the small, frightened child in front of him. Then he looked at his cockpit, where the launch countdown was still waiting. The choice should have been simple, but nothing about this job was simple anymore. Marcus made his decision in less than 3 seconds. He reached into the container and offered his hand to Lysa. "Come with me. You don't belong in a box." Lysa hesitated, then took his hand. Her fingers were cold and trembling. Marcus helped her out of the container and guided her through the cargo hold toward the main cabin. She walked slowly, her legs weak from being confined for so long. The cockpit was small but comfortable. Marcus had spent years making it feel like home. Pictures of Earth decorated one wall. A small plant sat near the window, somehow still alive despite his terrible gardening skills. Lysa looked around with wide eyes, as if she had never seen such a space before. "Sit here," Marcus said, pointing to the co-pilot chair. He strapped her in gently, making sure the safety harness fit her small frame. "Are you hungry?" Lysa nodded quickly. Marcus went to his food storage and pulled out emergency rations. He checked the label carefully. Zenthari could eat most human food, but some spices were dangerous for them. He found plain protein bars and a pouch of fruit paste, both safe options. Lysa ate like someone who had not seen food in days. She finished 3 protein bars and 2 pouches of fruit paste before finally slowing down. Marcus gave her water, and she drank it carefully, savoring each sip. "When did you last eat?" Marcus asked gently. 2 days ago. The man gave me food before he sealed the container. He said the journey would be short." Fresh tears appeared in Lysa's eyes, but I was so scared in the dark. I could hear nothing. I thought I would die like my parents. Marcus felt anger burning in his chest. What kind of person put a child in a sealed container and called it transport? He pushed the anger down and focused on Lysa. "Tell me about your parents. What happened to them?" Lysa's voice became quieter. "They were miners. Independent workers. Not part of a big company or clan. 3 months ago, there was an accident. A tunnel collapsed. They died trying to save other miners. Everyone said they were heroes." "They sound like brave people," Marcus said. "The colony honored them with a ceremony. But then everyone started leaving because the mines were empty. I had no clan, no family to claim me. In Zenthari culture, orphans without clan ties have no legal standing. I was nobody." Lysa wiped her eyes. "I hid in the old community center because I was scared. I didn't know what would happen to me." Marcus listened carefully. He was beginning to understand the situation. In Zenthari society, family and clan were everything. Without those connections, a person had no place, no rights, no protection. "How did the man find you?" Marcus asked. "He came to the community center 5 days ago. He was Zenthari, but I didn't recognize him. He said he worked for an organization that helped orphaned children find new families. He said I would go to a colony where people needed workers and I would have a home again. Lisa's voice cracked. But he put me in that box. He locked me in darkness. That's not how you help someone. Marcus felt the ice in his stomach grow colder. He activated his computer terminal and began searching for information about Meridian Solutions, the company that hired him. The search results were limited. Meridian Solutions was a shell company, registered in a sector known for loose regulations and flexible laws. He dug deeper, using search tools he had learned from other pilots who sometimes needed to know exactly who they were working for. After 20 minutes, he found the connection. Meridian Solutions was linked to a network of labor contractors who supplied workers to factories and mining operations in lawless regions. The word workers was used carefully in all the documents. But Marcus had heard stories. These organizations exploited legal gaps. They took orphaned children, refugees, and people without legal protection. They called them apprentices or interns. They promised training and homes. Instead, they sold them to dangerous workplaces where nobody asked questions about safety or wages. It was technically legal in some jurisdictions. The contracts were written cleverly. The paperwork was perfect. But everyone knew what it really was. Marcus looked at Lisa, who was studying the pictures of Earth on his wall. She pointed to one image of a park, with children playing. "What is this place?" "That's a park on Earth. Children go there to play and have fun," Marcus explained. "Xanthari don't have places like this. Children work with their clans, learning skills," Lisa said. Then she added quietly, "But I always wished we did. It looks happy." Marcus made another search on his computer. He looked up human colonies and stations in the sector. There was one, Port Liberty, about 6 days away, if he diverted from his current route. Port Liberty was human territory, which meant it followed human laws. Human laws were different from most alien legal systems. On Earth and human colonies, children were automatically protected regardless of their species, clan, or family status. If Marcus could get Lisa to Port Liberty, he could invoke human child protection protocols. She would be safe, but Port Liberty was not on his approved route. Diverting would break his contract. His employer would know immediately because his ship's navigation system logged every course change. They would demand explanations. They might take legal action. He could lose his ship, his pilot's license, and everything he had worked for. His communication console beeped. A message appeared from Meridian Solutions. Cargo status check required. Confirm all containers sealed and unexamined. Respond within 1 hour. They were testing him. They wanted to know if he had looked inside the containers. If he lied, and they discovered the truth at delivery, the consequences would be severe. If he told the truth now, they might remotely override his ship's controls or send security forces to intercept him. Marcus looked at Lisa again. She had fallen asleep in the co-pilot chair, finally feeling safe enough to rest. Her small chest rose and fell with steady breathing. She looked peaceful for the first time since he found her. He remembered being young and scared. He remembered the foster family that took him in when his own parents died. They had chosen to help him when they could have walked away. That choice had given him a life, a future, a chance. Now it was his turn to choose. Marcus placed his fingers on the keyboard and began typing his response. Marcus typed carefully. Minor temperature fluctuation detected in Container 7. Investigating personally to ensure cargo integrity. Will provide full report upon delivery. It was not exactly a lie. The temperature in the container had changed when he opened it, but it was not the whole truth either. The response bought him time to think, to plan, to figure out how to save Lisa without destroying his own life in the process. He sent the message and turned back to his sleeping passenger. Lisa was curled in the chair, her breathing soft and steady. Marcus covered her with a blanket and returned to his pilot station. For the next 2 hours, Marcus researched everything he could find about child protection laws across different jurisdictions. The information was complicated. Each species had different traditions. The Xanthari recognized only clan-based guardianship. The Vrexian had complex adoption rituals. The Tellurian believed children belonged to the state until they reached maturity. But human law was different. Humans had something called the Universal Child Protection Act. It stated that any child, regardless of species, who entered human territory was automatically granted protection until their safety and well-being could be guaranteed. The law came from Earth's own difficult history with orphans and abandoned children. Marcus found the nearest human station on his navigation charts. Port Liberty was a medium-sized station on the edge of the sector. It served as a trading hub and refueling point for human vessels. The station commander had full authority to grant asylum and protection under human law. The problem was getting there. His approved route took him in the opposite direction toward the core worlds. Changing course would trigger immediate alerts with his employer. His ship's artificial intelligence system logged every navigation decision and reported them automatically. Marcus needed to create a legitimate reason to divert to Port Liberty. An emergency that could not be ignored or questioned. He studied his ship's systems carefully. The cooling system for the main engine was old and sometimes unreliable. If he adjusted the settings slightly, he could create a controlled leak that would require an emergency stop. It would not damage the ship permanently, but it would be serious enough to justify diverting to the nearest station. Marcus knew this plan had risks. His employer would investigate the emergency. They would send mechanics to inspect his ship. They would discover that the cooling leak was suspicious. But by then, Lysa would be under human protection, and that was what mattered most. Lysa woke up as Marcus was finishing his calculations. She rubbed her eyes and looked around, momentarily confused. Then she remembered where she was and relaxed. "Did I sleep long?" she asked. "About 3 hours. You needed the rest," Marcus said with a smile. "Are you feeling better?" "Are you feeling better?" Lysa nodded. "I had a dream about my parents. They were teaching me how to read mineral deposits in rock formations. My father said I had natural talent." Her eyes grew sad. "I wanted to be a tunnel engineer like him. I wanted to design safer mines, so accidents like theirs would never happen again." Marcus felt his determination grow stronger. This child had dreams, hopes, and potential. She deserved a chance to pursue them, not to be sold to some factory where she would spend her youth doing dangerous work for no pay. "Lysa, I need to tell you something important," Marcus said. He knelt down beside her chair so they were at eye level. "The people who put you in that container are not good people. They were not taking you to a new family. They were taking you somewhere dangerous." Lysa's eyes widened with fear. "What will happen to me?" "Nothing bad. I promise," Marcus said firmly. "I'm taking you to a human station called Port Liberty. Humans have laws that protect children, all children, no matter what species they are. Once we get there, you'll be safe. People will help you find a real home with a real family. But your job," Lysa said quietly, "won't you get in trouble?" "Won't you get in trouble?" Marcus was surprised by her perception. This child understood more than he had realized. "Yes, probably. I might lose my ship and my pilot's license. But that's my choice to make, not yours. You didn't ask to be put in this situation. Why would you help me when it costs you so much?" Lysa asked. Her voice was filled with confusion. "In Zenthari culture, we help clan members because it strengthens the clan. But I'm not your clan. I'm nothing to you." Marcus thought carefully about how to answer. Humans believe something different. We believe every child deserves protection and opportunity. Regardless of where they come from or who their family is, we have a word for it. We call it compassion. It means choosing to help someone even when it's difficult or expensive, because it's the right thing to do. Lysa considered this for a long moment. Zenthari don't have that word. We have words for clan loyalty and honor obligation, but not for helping strangers. Maybe your people need to learn it, Marcus said gently. And maybe you can teach them someday. Before Lysa could respond, Marcus's communication console beeped urgently. A new message appeared from Meridian Solutions. The tone was different now, harsher and more demanding. "Your investigation is taking too long. Seal all containers immediately and proceed to delivery coordinates. Confirm compliance within 15 minutes. Marcus stood up and walked to his engineering controls. He made the adjustments he had planned, carefully creating the cooling leak. Alarms began sounding throughout the ship. Red warning lights flashed on his console. "What's happening?" Lisa asked, frightened by the sudden noise. "Emergency situation. The engine cooling system is failing. I have to make an emergency stop at the nearest station for repairs," Marcus said calmly. He was already changing course toward Port Liberty. Another message came through, this time with an attached video call request. Marcus ignored it and focused on his navigation. Port Liberty appeared on his screen, still 5 days away at maximum safe speed. A third message arrived. "Do not divert from approved route. We are sending a security vessel to assist with your emergency. Maintain current heading." Marcus felt his stomach tighten. They were sending someone to intercept him. They knew something was wrong. He looked at Lisa, who watched him with trusting eyes. She believed he would keep her safe. He could not let her down. "Hold on tight," Marcus said. "This journey is about to get complicated." Marcus pushed his ship to maximum safe speed. The cooling leak was real now, not just a simulation. His engine temperature was rising steadily. He had maybe 4 days before the system would overheat completely and force him to stop whether he wanted to or not. Lisa sat quietly in the co-pilot chair, sensing the tension. Marcus had explained the situation in simple terms. Bad people were coming. Good people at Port Liberty would help, they just needed to arrive first. On the second day of their race to Port Liberty, the security vessel appeared on his sensors. It was faster than Marcus's old cargo ship, and was gaining ground quickly. Marcus calculated the numbers. The security vessel would catch them one day before they reached Port Liberty. "They're coming, aren't they?" Lisa asked softly. "Yes, but I have a plan," Marcus said, though his confidence was shaky. He opened a communication channel to Port Liberty and sent an emergency message. "This is cargo vessel Phoenix, requesting humanitarian assistance. I have rescued an orphaned child from trafficking situation. Request protection under human child welfare protocols. Will arrive in 3 days." The response came 6 hours later. "Phoenix. This is Port Liberty Station Commander Sarah Okonkwo. Your message received. Be advised we are monitoring your situation. Proceed to our coordinates. We will be ready." Marcus felt a small spark of hope. At least Port Liberty knew they were coming. The security vessel made contact on the 3rd day. A harsh voice came through Marcus's speakers. "Cargo vessel Phoenix. This is security ship Talon. You are in violation of contract. Stop your engines immediately and prepare to transfer cargo." "Negative, Talon. I have an engine emergency and must proceed to nearest station for repairs." Marcus responded, keeping his voice steady. "Your emergency is convenient timing. We have orders to retrieve our property. Stop now, or face legal consequences." "The child is not property," Marcus said firmly, "and I'm proceeding to Port Liberty under human jurisdiction." There was silence for a moment. Then the voice returned. Colder now. "You're making a serious mistake, Captain Chen. Meridian Solutions has powerful legal resources. We will take everything you own." Marcus looked at Lisa, who was listening to every word. He thought about his ship, his career, his savings. Then he thought about what it meant to be human. "Some things matter more than money," he said and closed the channel. 4 hours later, both ships arrived at Port Liberty simultaneously. The station was impressive, a spinning wheel of metal and lights floating in space. Docking ports lined its outer ring. Marcus requested emergency docking clearance. "Phoenix, you are cleared for Bay 7. Talon, hold position and state your business." Commander Okonkwo's voice came through clearly. "We're here to retrieve stolen property," the Talon captain responded. "Port Liberty recognizes no property rights over living beings. If you wish to dock and present your case through proper legal channels, you may do so. Otherwise, maintain distance." Marcus guided his ship into the docking bay with shaking hands. He had made it. They were on human territory now. As soon as the docking clamps secured his ship, he unstrapped Lysa and took her hand. "Ready?" Lysa nodded, squeezing his hand tightly. They walked down the boarding ramp together. A security team waited at the bottom, along with a tall woman in a commander's uniform. She had kind eyes and a firm expression. "Captain Chen." "I'm Commander Okonkwo. And you must be Lisa," she said, kneeling down to the child's level. "Welcome to Port Liberty. You're safe here." Behind them, the Talon captain stormed into the docking bay with two stern-looking individuals in business suits. "Commander, that child is cargo under legal contract. We demand immediate return of our property." Commander Okonkwo stood up slowly. Her voice was calm but carried steel underneath. "That child is a living, feeling being with thoughts and dreams. On Port Liberty, we follow human law. Here, a child is a child, regardless of species. Lysa is now under human protection until her status is properly determined. This is outrageous. We have contracts, legal documents," one of the suited individuals protested. "Then you're welcome to present them to our legal office. They'll be reviewed according to human standards, which do not recognize child trafficking as legitimate commerce," Commander Okonkwo replied. The Talon captain pointed at Marcus. "What about him? He violated his contract, damaged our cargo, and stole company property. We're filing criminal charges. Those charges will also be reviewed. Captain Chen may face consequences for breach of contract, but he will be treated fairly under human law," the commander said. Over the next 3 days, the legal battle unfolded. Marcus lost his ship as collateral for the contract breach. His pilot's license was suspended pending investigation. He had no income, no transportation, and no clear future. He rented a tiny room on the station using his last savings, but Lysa was safe. Station Child Services placed her with a temporary foster family, the Hendersons. They were a retired couple who had raised 5 children of their own and volunteered to help orphaned children on the station. Marcus visited Lysa every day. She was adjusting well, learning English quickly and making friends with the Hendersons' grandchildren, who visited regularly. The Hendersons were patient and gentle, teaching her about human customs and treating her with genuine love. "She's a remarkable child, Mrs. Henderson told Marcus one afternoon. "Smart, resilient, and so eager to learn. She talks about you constantly. You're her hero." Marcus felt embarrassed. "I just did what anyone should do." "But most people don't," Mr. Henderson said seriously. "Most people look the other way. You looked directly at the problem and chose the hard path. That takes real courage." The story spread quickly through human networks across the sector. A legal aid organization called the Human Rights Advocacy Group contacted Marcus. They offered to represent him for free and to investigate the trafficking network. Other human pilots began coming forward with similar stories about suspicious cargo contracts from Meridian Solutions. 2 weeks after arriving at Port Liberty, Marcus sat in Commander Okonkwo's office. She reviewed documents on her screen, then looked up at him. "Captain Chen, your actions have opened up a major investigation. We've identified at least 30 children who were trafficked through similar arrangements. Because of you, we're shutting down this network." "That's good news," Marcus said. "But it doesn't change the fact that I'm broke and grounded." Commander Okonkwo smiled slightly. "About that, we have a job opening. Port Liberty needs specialists who understand cargo routes and can identify trafficking situations. The position comes with a salary, benefits, and a station residence. Interested?" Marcus stared at her. "You're offering me a job after I violated a contract?" "I'm offering you a job because you violated that contract when it was the right thing to do. We need more people like you." Marcus accepted the job without hesitation. Within days, he began working with Port Liberty's newly formed anti-trafficking task force. His knowledge of cargo routes, shipping companies, and the subtle signs of suspicious contracts proved invaluable. He taught other security officers what to look for, how to ask the right questions, and when to trust their instincts. The investigation into Meridian Solutions expanded rapidly. Human legal advocates worked with security forces across multiple stations. They discovered a network that had been operating for nearly 5 years, moving vulnerable children from species with weak orphan protection laws to factories and mines in remote regions. Over the following months, Marcus helped rescue 17 more children. Each rescue brought its own challenges and dangers, but every child safely recovered made the difficult work worthwhile. Some children were reunited with distant relatives. Others found foster families willing to take them in. A few, like Lysa, needed entirely new homes. Lysa thrived with the Hendersons. She attended the station school, where she excelled in mathematics and engineering courses. Her teachers reported that she asked endless questions about tunnel design, structural integrity, and mining safety. The dream of becoming an engineer was growing stronger every day. Marcus visited her regularly, becoming a fixture in the Henderson household. He taught Lysa about navigation and showed her how ships moved through space. She listened with fascination, absorbing every detail. The Hendersons joked that they now had 2 teachers, because Lysa would not stop talking about stars and trajectories after Marcus's visits. 6 months after arriving at Port Liberty, the Hendersons called Marcus to their home for an important conversation. They sat in their comfortable living room while Lysa played in her room, practicing math problems. "We want to adopt Lysa," Mrs. Henderson said directly. "We've discussed it extensively. We love her as if she were our own granddaughter. But there's a problem. Zenthari law doesn't recognize cross-species adoption," Marcus said, understanding immediately. "Exactly," Mr. Henderson confirmed. "We've consulted with lawyers. Under Zenthari legal tradition, only clan members can adopt orphaned children. Since we're human, we have no legal standing in their system. But under human law, adoption is possible across species lines," Marcus said thoughtfully. "The question is which law applies to Lysa. Our lawyers argue that since Lysa is on human territory and under human protection, she should have the right to choose her family according to human principles," Mrs. Henderson explained. "At 9 years old, she's old enough under human law to express her wishes, but the Zenthari government is objecting." The legal battle took 3 more months. Human advocates argued that Lysa's rights should be determined by where she lived, not by the species she was born into. The Zenthari government, embarrassed by the revelation that their clan system left orphans vulnerable to trafficking, found themselves in a difficult position. The case attracted attention across the sector. News reports covered the story of a human pilot who sacrificed his career to save an alien child, and the family who wanted to give her a permanent home. Representatives from multiple species watched carefully to see how the situation would be resolved. During this time, something unexpected happened. Zenthari officials reached out to human child welfare experts. They wanted to understand how humans protected orphaned children. They studied concepts like foster care, adoption agencies, and orphanages. These ideas did not exist in traditional Zenthari culture, but the trafficking scandal had revealed a serious gap in their social systems. Lysa became an unofficial ambassador. Zenthari officials interviewed her carefully, asking about her experiences with the Hendersons, human school, and life on Port Liberty. She explained concepts that seemed obvious to humans but were revolutionary to her people. "The Hendersons are not my clan, but they love me like family," Lysa told the officials in one recorded interview. "They don't love me because they have to, but because they choose to. That choice makes the love stronger, not weaker." Her words, spoken in both Galactic Common and her native Zenthari language, spread across communication networks. Young Zenthari began questioning why their society had no system to care for children without clan ties. Older Zenthari, remembering friends or relatives who had suffered similar situations, began demanding change. 8 months after Marcus first opened that container on Theta 7, the Zenthari government announced sweeping reforms. They would create a new child welfare system modeled partly on human practices but adapted to Zenthari culture. Orphaned children would be placed with volunteer families who received government support. The reforms were called the Lysa Protocols, named after the child whose case had sparked the change. 2 weeks later, Lysa's adoption was finalized. The ceremony took place in Port Liberty's main gathering hall. Representatives from 6 species attended. including 3 Zenthari officials who had worked on the new child welfare reforms. Lysa wore a beautiful dress that combined human and Zenthari styles. She stood between Mr. and Mrs. Henderson, holding their hands tightly. Marcus stood nearby, wearing the formal uniform of his new position as Senior Trafficking Investigations Specialist. Commander Okonkwo officiated the ceremony. She spoke about courage, compassion, and the power of choosing what is right over what is easy. Then she invited Lysa to speak. Lysa stepped forward, her voice clear and strong. She had practiced her speech for weeks with Marcus's help. 1 year ago, I was alone and scared, locked in darkness. I thought my life was over. But one human made a choice. Captain Marcus Chen chose to help me, even though it cost him everything he owned. That choice changed my life completely. She looked at the alien dignitaries seated in the front rows. I have learned many things from humans. I learned about foster families and adoption. I learned about protection laws and children's rights. But the most important thing I learned is a human word: compassion. It means choosing kindness, even when it's difficult or expensive. It means helping someone not because you must, but because you should. Lysa's voice grew stronger. I want to bring this idea to my own people. The Zenthari are strong and proud. But we can be stronger. We can create systems that protect our most vulnerable. We can choose compassion over tradition when tradition fails our children. The audience applauded. Several Zenthari officials stood, a sign of deep respect in their culture. After the ceremony, there was a celebration with food from multiple cultures. Lysa insisted on a human tradition she had read about: adoption cake. Mrs. Henderson had baked a large chocolate cake with white frosting. Lysa cut the first slice carefully, surrounded by her new family, friends, and the people who had fought for her right to choose her own future. Marcus stood slightly apart, watching with quiet satisfaction. Commander Okonkwo approached him with 2 glasses of fruit juice. You look thoughtful, she said, handing him a glass. I was just thinking about how one simple cargo run changed everything, Marcus replied. If I had ignored that sound in the cargo hold, if I had just followed my contract, where would Lysa be now? In a factory somewhere, probably. Working long hours, with no hope of escape. Commander Okonkwo said honestly. But you didn't ignore it. You chose differently. And lost my ship in the process, Marcus said with a slight smile, but gained something more valuable. You proved that individual choices matter. You started a movement that's protecting children across the sector. That's worth more than any cargo ship. Marcus's communication device beeped. He checked the message, and his expression became serious. 3 more suspicious cargo contracts reported in the outer rim. Ships requesting inspection assistance. Ready to investigate? Commander Okonkwo asked. Marcus looked back at Lysa, who was laughing with her new siblings and friends from the station school. She was explaining something about engineering with wild hand gestures. She looked happy, safe, and full of hope. Always, Marcus said. He finished his juice and headed toward the security office. 1 cargo run. 1 difficult choice. 1 child saved. And from that single act of compassion, an entire sector was becoming more humane. Marcus understood now that heroism was not about grand gestures or dramatic battles. It was about seeing someone who needed help and choosing to act, regardless of the cost. Behind him, the celebration continued. Lysa's laughter echoed through the hall, a sound of pure joy that represented everything Marcus had fought for. He smiled and walked toward his next mission, ready to help the next child who needed a hero. Some jobs seemed simple at first, but the best ones, the ones that truly mattered, were never simple at all.